Well, hey everybody, welcome back to Minivan Theology. I'm going to call this Minivan Theology the Intermission episode because we're sort of done with our first 10-part magnet series, which if that doesn't make sense to you, go back and watch the first 10. And we're going to step into the next series, for reasons of, order, I'll probably say the next 10 series, but I'm not sure because that'll take us into summer. Anyway, my minivan's a little bit of a mess right now. Shocking, I realize. I've had some dog stuff going on and the back seat's all so that's why I'm sitting like this in the back of my minivan, but there's nothing this minivan can't facilitate, so no big deal. So this is intermission week, and we've just taken a look at the top 10, or the ones that I chose anyway to be the top 10 magnet verses, popular verses that you see on like mugs and tote bags. Good verses, always good verses. But we've talked about how when you understand them in their proper context, that's even more exciting and shows us the story of the Bible in even a bigger way. And then what I want to do for the next 10, let's say roughly 10 verses, is then look at 10 verses that maybe don't make the magnet bar. Maybe there are verses that are obscure and weird. When I first started this, if you haven't seen the intro, it's one of the shortest. It's like 7 minutes, so you could go watch it. I said that the Bible has 31,102 verses. And so when you only see 10 of them on tote bags and mugs, you're missing all the rest. And so every verse is, of course, important and powerful. And what I want to do is take the same method that we've been using, thinking about sort of a postcard from the Grand Canyon, then driving to the Grand Canyon and all that, and apply it to just random verses. I told the story at the beginning of this about how this was born when Abby, our older daughter, was learning to drive. It was, horrifying to look out the window. So we jumped into scripture instead. Save us, God. But I wasn't happy with the verse of the day apps that were out there because they actually weren't that random. They were always picking like the happy, easy verses. But there's all these other verses. I mean, the Bible, the whole Bible, right? Full of verses, 31,102. There will not be a test on that. So I want to just look at, random verses. And I've done some of this with our girls over the years in the car. And so I've kind of got a list of, verses sort of from all the different genres of scripture. And so that's what we'll be doing. I'm hoping that this will be a little interactive in the sense that maybe what I'll do is like on Mondays, I'll put out the verse. And then if you're following along, you can apply sort of this idea of what's the postcard, what's the drive up to the canyon, what's the hike down to the canyon, how does this fit into the whole of the Bible story? And then we'll see on Wednesday if like what you've done matches what I'm saying. You could email me or you could text me, and that could be kind of fun. All of this is helping me sort through this so that potentially I can write another book out there. The working title is Minivan Theology. But today what I thought would be fun, well, actually it was an idea suggested by my friend Tara. Hey Tara, to just think about some things that are on mugs and magnets that people think are verses, but actually they're not verses. So this will be shorter. I'm not going to go 20 minutes on this one. There's so many. It was hard for me to pick, and I only want to do one episode of this. So some that I'm not going to do tonight are, so for example, God moves in mysterious ways. Okay. That's not in the Bible anywhere in that exact formulation. It is very similar to what Bono sings in "She Moves in Mysterious Ways," but that's not the Bible. And though I am the biggest U2 fan, even I am not going to put Bono up there by God. So not in the Bible. But there's a lot of these things that sound like verses have sort of a grain of truth. Clearly, God does move in mysterious ways, and there's a lot of scripture that points to that principle, but that's not actually a verse found in the Bible. This too shall pass. I don't even know why people think that's in the Bible. I think it's because they're confusing it with Gandalf from the Lord of the Rings when he says, "You shall not pass." That's how I quote it. But anyway, it's this idea that, suffering and trials will pass and will go away. We talked a lot about in the first 10 episodes of this that yes, that's true, because God calls us to a new creation with new bodies that aren't broken and a new world that's not falling apart. But we also talked about how in this life there are trials, and there is the valley of the shadow of death. There is the valley of the darkness. So it will pass, but it, may not pass by tomorrow. And then a favorite one that I'm not going to do tonight is cleanliness is next to godliness. I mean, I don't even, it just gives me the heebie-jeebies to even think about that because, for example, my minivan is so filthy. So if that's true, then I'm in a lot of trouble. I think it comes from the idea, there's two reasons that people often think that that's in the Bible. One, there's a whole lot of the law in the Old Testament, and I'm going to do some verses from this in our second half of this series that have to do with helping the Israelites in the Old Testament, stay like physically and actually clean. So it has to do laws with not spreading disease and not eating food that would have germs on it before they even knew what any of that stuff was. There is a sense that God was giving them laws that would help actually keep them clean. But at a larger sense, we've talked a lot about how God looks to our hearts, and he looks inside what are our motivations, what's going on in our sort of inner life, and we're called to, as the psalmist says, create in me a clean heart, O God. So we're called to this life of purity, cleanliness, sort of this moral standard that God calls us to that we can't do on our own. And so I think that's where it comes from. But anyway, we're just gonna be really glad that's not in the Bible today, because my minivan, we'd have to cancel the whole thing and be done with it. So the two that I wanted to choose for today are similar, and that's why I'm doing two. And the first one is follow your heart. And the second one is God helps those who help themselves. God helps those who help themselves. Okay. God helps those who help themselves. Oh, it's a tongueful. But they're very similar in their context. So first of all, follow your heart. Well, Roxette maybe says it best, listen to your heart. It's a terrible idea. Don't follow your heart. Don't listen to your heart, apart from finding yourself in God's story. So we've been talking all along about how the whole story of the Bible is about God. He's the main character. It's not us, but he invites us in. And if he's invited you in and he's given you this new life, this place in his story, well, then you're following him. And that's his heart that you're following, but you're not following your heart. This is tricky in our culture because, boy, this world loves it. Does this sound familiar? When you wish upon a star, makes no difference who you are. Okay, I'll stop singing. Anything your heart desires will come to you. I mean, that's a terrible idea. And we teach our little kids that. Anything your heart, okay, my heart desires to never make dinner again, so that lops off my family. They don't get to eat anymore. And I would like to eat pizza. I mean, seriously, I could eat pizza breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Always. Ask my husband. I could eat pizza all the time. Anything my heart desires. Well, my heart wouldn't be around for very long if I ate pizza 3 meals a day for the rest of my life. I am almost 50. That would be very unhealthy and a poor choice. But that is what my heart desires. And that's, supposed to come to me. That's my dream. It's just a terrible idea. And if you take this to the next level, which our culture does, they tell you, to dig deep and to find that inner truth inside you and to follow that sort of inner divine power that they think, Oprah says that we have. And you can trust that. And it's going to lead you to success and happiness and whatever, all the things. No, it will not. So Oprah may say that, but Jeremiah says the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? Well, who can know it? God can know it. That's it. And he says our hearts are cold and broken and a disaster. And he offers to give us his heart, the heart of Jesus, when we decide to follow him. And so that's sort of the flipping it on the story. And if we look at this next one, it's the same idea. I'm going to get it right in one try. God helps I can't get the pronouns. God helps those who help themselves. Okay, first of all, a history lesson. It's not in the Bible. And I bet you're thinking, ooh, I think Ben Franklin. No. Ben Franklin did say it in the Poor Richard's Almanac, but he didn't invent the quote. It actually comes way back when they think, I don't know, I did like a 5-minute search on this, so it's not like I'm the expert, but they think that this came from Aesop. He's the Greek dude who Aesop's Fables from 600 BC, so like forever and ever ago. But here's something interesting. Also, you can find a very similar quote in the Quran, which is the scripture for the Islamic religion, right? And so it says in the Quran, I have to read this so I get it right. Indeed, Allah will not change the condition of a people until they change their inner selves. And of course, the Quran was written around 600 or so AD. So even if Ben Franklin made it popular in America, he certainly wasn't the first person to say it. It had already been said by Aesop and by the Prophet Muhammad when he wrote the Quran. Interestingly enough, it's the complete opposite that we see in our scripture, the Bible, which is God helps us. Full stop, period. Because we can't help ourselves. I mean, that's the entire point of our story that we keep talking about, is that we cannot do this on our own. We're incapable of saving ourselves. We talked about this last time with our final magnet verse, John 3:16, that God sent his only begotten son because we can't do the whole be saved, born again, the whole put ourselves in the story thing. We can't even contribute to it. There's nothing we can do. And this is a very American sounding phrase. I think that's maybe why we think of Ben Franklin with it. You know, this can-do attitude, and I'm going to work my way there, and I'm going to add something, I'm going to contribute, I'm not taking any handouts. Well, that's all well and good, but it's not going to save you. What's going to save you is God. God helps those who cannot help themselves. That's exactly why we need Jesus, because there's not any single thing that we can do. Okay, those are our two not verses that I wanted to focus on tonight. But you see, it's so interesting when you use this paradigm that we've talked about, this Grand Canyon idea, and you have the postcard, and you take it bigger and bigger, and you get these little sayings. You can now apply it to these and say, well, where is that? What's the context? What chapter and verse? And oh, that's right, it's not in the Bible. So that was our little intermission episode, and I'm going to come back hopefully next week. We've had some scheduling, volleyball, plays, musicals, dogs. I can't talk with the dogs. Next week, and we'll start our second part of the series. I have to come up with a catchy title for it because it won't be magnet verses anymore. Well, I don't know. Will I call it unpopular verses? I'm not sure. That doesn't sound good either. That's not catchy on YouTube. So I'll come back, and if I get my act together in time, I'll try and post the verse on Monday, and we'll work through it on Wednesday. But I may wait and do 1 week of just practicing so that we see what we're doing here. But it should be fun. And that will definitely get us to summer. We're going to be into summer by the time we're done with this. So thank you for watching. Thanks for your emails and input and comments. It's been so fun. And I will see you in a week.